Hey y'all, happy new moon in Cancer again. We had a new moon in Cancer last month. Um, Apparently, every year there's like one new moon that you get one back to back. And so basically, it's Cancer season again. Hi, Leos. I kid, I kid. But that's really what it's going to feel like, to be honest. Like, we're really still going to be in these watery vibes. We'll have a little bit more motivation and action, directive. I actually wrote some notes. I tapped into the energy before before starting, and so just kind of what came through is clarity, relief, direction, and healing. So what we'll be experiencing is the inability to deny or repress our true feelings, an activation of a deeper sense of self knowing and intuition, an increased ability to communicate our needs. We'll be taking ownership of deep soul wounds and acceptance of our behaviors and patterns. So it's really when we talked about taking the time to reparent over Mercury retrograde in Cancer, when I talked about that being our focus, it does seem like, especially for those of you who watch the July videos, if you haven't, you can get previews here on the IG feed, and then head over to the website to watch the full video. But we really talked about reparenting as a focus. And now it seems like we're at the point where we really have witnessed and have a greater understanding of the ways that we act out those woundings. Okay, so that's great. That's phenomenal because that's super empowering, and just the awareness, right, to know what we've been struggling with, dealing with. As a result of some parenting, just a lot of inner child work continues now in a more elevated way, it feels like. So I also wrote down being held in love while facing uncomfortable truth. So this new moon will basically bring us the energy of it, supports us, I should say, supports what's become crystal clear now that Mercury is direct, now that these lessons of the people who popped in, the people who didn't make it through the other side of what I really felt like was a portal, that last new moon was a portal, and this was the, I'll say, shifting, the harmonizing or the perfecting of and the correcting of a timeline, it feels like. So it was like there was an opportunity to get in alignment. And so now what we're going to be looking at today is what's being dissolved through those Cancerian waters, through the darkness of this new moon, like what's being dissolved, what's being brought forward that needs our attention. Where have we built walls that restrict love's flow in our lives? And that came through last week in the Daily Flow as a channeling about, are these boundaries or are you just like shut down to love? And we're really needing to be a little bit more nuanced in how we navigate what our emotions are telling us. And then what needs to be left behind. And this is a difficult one because we may have been struggling to accept and we've been trying to hold on. So that's another part of that hard medicine. So it came through that the name of this video was going to be called When Love Calls Your Name. So let's see how we can better answer that call. So what's being dissolved? Spirit. What is being dissolved? What is being brought forward that needs our attention? Where have we built walls that restrict love's flow in our lives? Too many, Spirit. too. I'll take that. I'll definitely take that. What needs to be left behind that we struggle to accept? I think something flipped over. I'll keep pulling. What needs to be left behind that we're struggling to admit? Something did flip over. All right. The bottom of the deck is the Eight of Swords. So this is definitely going to be an even deeper dive, it feels like, into our emotions. This is still a season of cultivating emotional intelligence. Underneath that is the Chief, which is the Emperor card in this deck. So this is a softening of our hearts where we've hardened them because of trust, because of betrayal, because of harm, because of the deep woundings of abandonment and rejection. And so all of that has been brought into our awareness in a way that we have a better understanding of it. So this is less about identifying triggers, for instance, and more about understanding the path forward to the healing. Okay? And so what's being dissolved, we got the Three of Pentacles and the Hermit in reverse. It is relationships. It does feel like whatever relationships that didn't make it through the revisiting of old wounds, old hurts, we're finally understanding that we just have to let it go. Some of this is friendship, but some of this is spiritual beliefs and spiritual teachings. That left us feeling empty, that didn't really build us up, that actually were blocking our third eye, our understanding. There is also a freeing up of space. How do I say this? How do I articulate this, Spirit? Where we invest our spiritual energy, where we invest our attention, where we invest our ability to manifest and create, like literally our what takes up room in our head. There is space being made there now. The concept or the idea of self-limiting beliefs is present, but this actually feels more like old ideas or old concepts of maybe who we are as professionals being revisited and letting go of identities. Thank you. Okay. It is that ego death. It's a bit of an ego death, a mini one, a big one, depending on where you are, that I talked about. I think it was either in the first new moon in Cancer video or Mercury retrograde. So this identity of who we are, what groups potentially we belong to, who was going to be in our life, who we were going to build with, what communities we're going to build. There is some shifting there. So I'll give some clarity on that. There's resistance to this, though. And so, whatever it is that's keeping us from letting go of a friendship, a relationship, there may be something said that you can no longer hide the truth about the connection or the truth about your place and your role in that person's life, in their heart, and same for you. The Undines and Mermaids are here to clarify which is this new moon. Eight of Water at the bottom of the deck. So since that's the bottom of the deck in our original deck, I'll stop. Any relationship, any commitment that we've made, any investment that we made where there isn't integrity, where there isn't honesty, where there isn't reciprocity, where there isn't respect, mutual respect, it's being dissolved because there was a truth, there was something shared, there was something admitted, there was something revealed that made you see more clearly that these connections were taking, and you were investing in places that didn't actually see you for who you really were. So they're being dissolved. But it's liberating because it frees up your energy and your space to create things, one, that have worth and value to you, to actually connect with the people who you know now have this mutual respect. And there's something about communicating, though. It was 12:22 when I said that, so I will ask about, will this be something that dissolves because of a conversation that's had, or is it words left unsaid and we just close the door on it and just choose to keep the peace? Is it just an adjustment in the access, the level of access that a person has to us? And of course, it's going to be different for everyone, but this feels the Empress. Four of Cups at the bottom of the deck. This is emotional maturity on our part. We don't need whatever validation that those connections that were really actually superficial and shallow, where there was no real community, there was no real love. It was more maybe even on like the gossip scale or like the petty scale, and like there, or just something, the trauma, like there was a charge, there was an emotional charge that we got from this relationship that made us feel safe because of the wounds, like, and safe by like not literally being safe but familiar, and that's shifted because we have a deeper connection, we have a deeper sense of what it means to be emotionally fulfilled. And so the connections that literally are not fulfilling or meeting any needs that we have beyond that, like attachment, that need for validation, that need for affirmation about who we were or who we were, because it doesn't feel like we're that person anymore. Those connections are dissolving because they just don't mean as much to us anymore. And maybe there was a time on our journey where we didn't know the truth of who we were, and that was what part of these connections were about. Because what's being brought forward that needs our attention is the Justice card. And this is giving me heavy karma vibes, and this came through in our new moon in Capricorn, in our full moon eclipse Capricorn, about the scales being balanced now and weighted. And so we have a deeper understanding of what the purpose of these connections are, what role we played. The new contracts that we're making, the new agreements that we're making. So, what's being brought to our attention now is how powerful we are and what happens if we say yes to what we believe is love now. What happens? The Ten of Air, the Seven of Earth, the Four of Earth, Three of Earth at the bottom of the deck. These are the new relationships. These are the budding friendships. These are the budding partnerships. This is about integrity and personal development and accountability and responsibility. This is paying the cost to be the boss. If you're from the South, you know what that's about. This is paying the cost to be the boss, and you put in the work. That's why the relationships are dissolving, because you are preparing for new life. You are preparing for fresh starts. You are preparing for a harvest. If I'm honest, if that's what it feels like, there is a harvest, and this energy, there's something around either taking credit for what it is that we've built or not fully realizing how much power we were giving away. So let me get this message crystallized. Many of these connections, there was an idea that Devil at the bottom, Wheel of Fortune, new timeline. There was an idea that like somehow they made you, or that they controlled you, or thought that like you belonged to them. And so what we're shifting is out of a place of ownership, out of a place of manipulation and control, and into freedom. And a real awareness, and that's probably why it's called, When Love Calls Your Name, really delineating and really having a better understanding of what codependency looks like versus healthy community looks like. Where love flows versus where emotions are spilled out for the purpose of control and manipulation. And sometimes we don't even know we're doing this, like when we're in a trauma bond. So when I talked about that, like that emotional charge, when relationships have a very specific feel and vibe to them, we're being liberated from that. So sometimes we don't even know that we're seeking that emotional addiction or codependency. Oh, there was a great post today by the holistic psychologist earlier. And so I definitely believe spirit speaks at the same time in many different ways. So I do think that's the shift that we're making. And so we're answering love's call by properly grieving and releasing those connections. And understanding that where we thought that there was like maybe this, and that's okay. I'm not saying that they weren't brotherhoods, sisterhoods, that they weren't purposeful, but also justice. Like the karma that was being played out has now been resolved because we've come into our personal power, we've come into a greater self awareness. Okay. So where have we built walls that restrict love's flow in our lives? And I love this so much because we got the Queen Mother, which is the Empress, which is already is everywhere in this deck. But of course Cancer, the Mother, and the Six of Staves. So we stifle the flow of love in our lives by not celebrating ourselves, by not celebrating our victories, by not like being unwilling to receive compliments, being unwilling to receive praise. By engaging in false humility, by not embracing our gifts. And so when we surrender to our calling, we shine in our purpose and our alignment, and that's where we kind of start to feel the love. And it's not about feeding our ego or doing things to receive praise or validation. It's about the natural order of reaping the harvest, of reaping what you sow. Three of Pentacles. So this is all about relationships now, about healthier ones, about people who celebrate you, about you celebrating other people, about investing in building the new earth. Everybody pulling their weight. Three of Pentacles, Ace of Earth, Five of Wands, Two of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Expansion. So thinking about what's next for you, what you intend for your relationships. There's really, though, a sense of like not wanting to let go of the weird competition, the sense of competition, or the sense of having to prove that we belong or that we're worthy. And so, but what needs to be left behind, though, because I said that resistance, and I'm feeling we got the sun, and the concept of needing to be the only one, or so something maybe that comes from these deep wounds that I talked about, these inner child wounds of like needing to be accepted, needing not to feel rejection, or just being very deeply triggered by anything that whiffs of that will be discarded or thrown away, or that we can't trust people we're in connection with. What we're really needing to let go of is the concept of, basically being the only one, or like the special one, or the chosen one, and realizing that our uniqueness is indisputable, but we all have power. And this weird it's not weird, it's just ego, this need to feel chosen is preventing this next level for us, or this maturity for us. And this is the quest that we're on now, is to embrace our gifts, surrender to our purpose without the need to feel like we've made it or accomplished or arrived. This is spiritual growth. This comes with spiritual growth. I got the Five of Cups, Five of Water, Papa Legba, Elewa, Shango, Fairies and Sylphs, and Pombajita. The doors that will be open for you when you surrender and walk in your purpose are nothing like compared to what maybe you thought you would get by being in community with certain people or being accepted or being deemed like the authority by like some other group that you were attached to before, or a certain level of success that you expected to have by now is literally nothing. You're grasping what you're holding on to, this ego death. When you finally let go and surrender, it's what's coming is unimaginable. When you finally let go of, yeah, when you let go of the idea or the concept of what you thought would be, so many doors start to open. Love starts to come when love calls. It doesn't have to look like what you thought it was going to look like. Message from Water on the bottom. And so I'll close there. It's very interesting because we're really struggling to release these old patterns or these old connections, these old attachments, these old stories. You are love. You are everything. You are consciousness, and we're all connected. And the love that you seek, if this is in relationship and partnership, I mean, watch your July messages and stay tuned for August, of course. But it's here. I kind of want more tea on that. But it's all in the communication. It's in the prayer. It's in the making our needs known. It's in the fun. It's in the celebration of ourselves, the basking and dwelling in our creativity and our purpose and the things that just feel good. Because nobody's going to do that for us. We get to decide what we want now. And nobody knows better what we want than us. And so we're really getting tapped in and tuned into who our guides are, who our beneficial and honorable ancestors are. Alegua here representing communication and open doors and prayer to this legion of feminine energy, the Pombajita. This feels like ancestry to me. Graduating and stepping into a level of spiritual freedom and liberation, and doors being opened by your ancestors versus us clinging to old patterns, old belief systems. Letting them do the heavy lifting, and that's who's calling us. To shower us with love, shower us with affection, send us our partners if that's what you're calling into your life. And so it's here. Our prayers are definitely potent. This is a powerful time of manifestation, especially if we lean into it with the awareness of surrender to letting go of what was and allowing the portal to close and stepping into these new timelines. And it's really interesting as I close, and I'll kind of say what the last week has been like for me. It's been super disorienting to get the clarity, get the information, get the downloads about the who and the why. But once you allow yourself to process, even if you go one by one, person by person, job by job, connection by connection, project by project, whatever it is that you're having to let go of or release and to surrender to, it will make sense. But the releasing now is extremely powerful. So when these doors close, they will be closed for good. So it's scary, and it's a grieving process that deserves our attention, deserves our intention. But the results from getting clear about what's next and who gets to remain and who gets to keep access to us, and the boundaries that we're gonna put in place to cultivate this the healthy needs that we have to be seen and be witnessed in all of our glory, in intimate connections and partnerships, not codependent ones. It's phenomenal. Just the intimacy and the feeling of trust and connection is just, when I'm tapping into it, it feels like love. And that's what's calling to us. They want me to keep going, so I'll just get closing guidance. I guess that's what is being asked. It was 31:31, so I said that. So okay. Six of water, ace of water, SU at the bottom. This new moon in Cancer, ace of water, six of water here, is about letting our heart free, surrendering to love, surrendering to passion, surrendering to purpose, and just allowing vulnerability to not be so scary. Our truth doesn't have to be scary. What makes our heart smile doesn't have to be scary. And so we should just lean into the pleasure, lean into the joy, lean into the innocence. Lean into the innocence of what our soul needs and what our soul is calling for. It doesn't have to be a burden. Purpose doesn't have to be a burden. It gets to be fun. It gets to be enjoyable. So manifest, man. Journal, write, dream, vision board, Pinterest, like whatever it is that you do, but definitely get still and allow yourself to see what it is, or what the endless possibilities are, because it really just feels like we are super magnetic and drawing and calling in the new. And the people who are willing and ready to do this in a different way, if they aren't already in our lives, haven't already been introduced to us, they are coming. Okay? So don't worry. It's hard to say goodbye, but our people are coming. And that's for me and for all of us. So, all right. I love y'all so much. If you want to book a personal reading, you can do that at the link in the bio. If you're watching this on YouTube, the website is theoverflow.com, TheOverflow.com.